This bro tried to rob a bank with his autistic bro, then this happened. This is a story of a 2017 crime thriller movie called Good Times. The movie tells us a story about two brothers, named Connie and Nick, who decide to rob a bank to settle for a new life. But it turns out that the simple heist doesn't go smoothly as they have planned, making them gotten into more serious trouble. The movie opens with the scene of Nick during his session with Peter the psychiatrist. It is revealed that Nick has been assigned by the court to do this therapy session regularly since he has autism. During the session, Nick starts to tell the psychiatrist about his past trauma, which makes him cry. Then suddenly, Connie enters the room and interrupts their session. Seeing his brother cry, Connie decides that Nick is done with his session. On their way out, Connie thinks that Nick is not sick like any other patients. Connie is pretty certain that he's the only person that can keep his brother safe. Connie then decides to get out of town and get themselves a fresh start. But obviously, they're gonna need a lot of money. And Connie's plan to get that much money is by robbing a small bank. The heist goes quietly without any violence. They just put out a little note to the bank lady that tells her to not say anything, to not trigger the alarm, and put $65,000 in the bag. The bank lady then put some money inside the bag and wrote on the note that she can't give them $65,000 since this is all the money she has on the counter. But the brothers keep convincing her non-violently through the note, saying that they are armed. The bank lady then goes back inside to get more money. In the end, they still manage to pull off the robbery. Both of them rush their way into an alley to trash their clothes and masks. Connie then calls their getaway driver to come pick them up. When they get inside the car, Connie still can't believe how easy it is to score that big. For a moment, Connie thinks they really just got away with their robbery. Until suddenly, they hear a beeping sound inside their money bag. Turns out that the sound was coming out of this red smoke bomb. The smoke bomb began to explode right after they opened the bag, making them and their money fully covered in red dye. Turns out this was the bank's procedure to deal with robbery, so that the robbers would be easy to track. At this point, they're gonna need to improvise. Connie then decides to enter a nearby fast food chain and uses the bathroom to wash up. Connie uses the sink, while Nick uses the toilet. Since the restaurant manager keeps banging on the bathroom, Connie needs to quickly find a place to stash their cash. After changing their clothes, Connie puts their money bag into the bathroom ceiling. Both of them decide to lay low for a while, since the cops must have been looking for them. But it seems that them walking around the neighborhood together is suspicious enough that they get stopped by the cops. Just when the cop is about to ask them some questions, Nick gets really nervous that he starts running away. Connie has no choice but to follow him. The cops start chasing after them on foot. Connie tries to lead his brother into a nearby mall to confuse the cops. But inside the mall, they get separated from each other. Connie manages to find the exit door, while Nick smashes this invisible glass door. Nick ended up getting caught because of that, while Connie manages to escape. Nick gets thrown into jail right away after that. Jail is definitely the worst place for someone like Nick, since there's gonna be a lot of bullies in this place. Nick often gets beaten up by other inmates who love to gang up against the new kid. Even when Nick tries to fight back, he's always on his own. Nick also often gets a visit from his psychiatrist and lawyer who are trying to get him out, since he believes that jail is not the place where Nick is supposed to be. And in return, they want him to give up some information about Connie. But Nick would never give up his brother so easily. Peter the psychiatrist is not the only person who's trying to do so. Connie is also trying to bail his brother out. Later that night, he gets back into the restaurant bathroom to take his money bag. He then goes into a bail bond shop. Connie wants to use his money to bail Nick out of jail, but the bondsman tells him that the money is no good for use. Since the money is covered in red dye, it would be recognized as stolen money. The bondsman only manages to take $16,000 out of it, making him $10,000 short. Connie then plans to meet up with his girlfriend Corey to get some help from her. Corey's mother doesn't really like the idea of her daughter hanging out around Connie, but Corey always falls for Connie's majestic prince vampire-like charm. Corey's mother doesn't want to let her go without a fight, but in the end, Corey storms out anyway. While they're on their way to the bail bond shop, Connie explains everything, but he tells her a different story. He says that Nick's psychiatrist was being abusive to Nick. But when Nick tries to fight back, he gets arrested. After hearing that lie, Corey agrees to help Connie to bail his brother out, since Connie says that he only needs a couple $1,000s. When they arrive at the bail bond shop, Corey is surprised that a couple $1,000s that Connie means is actually $10,000. But of course, Corey would do anything for Connie, since she's gonna use her mother's credit card anyway. But it turns out that her mother had blocked the credit card, making Corey goes all dramatic and hysterical. Then suddenly, the bondsman gets a call from his inside man, saying that Nick was sent to a hospital because he just got beaten up real bad. After getting this information, Connie thinks that he doesn't need to pay the bondsman anymore. Connie then asks the bondsman to return his $16,000, but the bondsman refuses. Knowing that he has no time to argue, Connie decides to just leave the money and rushes to the hospital where Nick was brought in. The hospital obviously wouldn't give up any information about a prisoner to a random stranger. Connie then begins to ask around, hoping that people would know where his brother was kept. Luckily, Connie manages to get an information from a staff member and learns that there's a prisoner on the 6th floor. When he gets to the 6th floor, it turns out that finding his brother's room is pretty easy, since there's a cop guarding outside the room. Now his only problem is how to make the cop goes away. He's throwing some random conversation with the cop, pretending to be a family member of another patient, so that he can get a closer look inside a room. He then hides behind a nearby vending machine and patiently waits for the cop to get off his seat. When the cop finally takes a break, Connie doesn't waste any second to break into the room. He breaks the cuff by kicking the bed. He then put his brother into a wheelchair and rolled out. He puts his jacket to cover his brother, so that the cop wouldn't recognize him. In the end, Connie manages to get him out safely. He then gets inside an ambulance that's going to take a patient home. Connie still doesn't know where to get off, but Nick and Connie still need to get off when the ambulance hits its last stop. Connie then plans to bring Nick into this old lady's house who also just got off from the ambulance. Connie lies that he just lost his house key and phone. Since it's freezing cold outside, the lady agrees to take them inside. When she lets him use her phone, Connie fakes a phone call and tells the lady that his mother has the house key and she won't return from work until morning. And with that, Connie just got himself and his brother a place to stay the night. After his brother is settled in his room, Connie makes his way into the bathroom and goes through all their stuff. Connie thinks that it would be a good idea to dye his hair so that the cop wouldn't recognize him. Connie's hair is now blonde. He watches the TV while trying to contact his girlfriend, but she doesn't reply. The lady's 16-year-old granddaughter, Crystal, then joins Connie to watch the TV. She doesn't seem to think that Connie, who just casually changed his hair color, is fishy at all. Suddenly, Connie's face pops out on the news. He then begins to kiss Crystal to distract her from seeing his face on TV. Moments later, Connie hears a scream from Nick's room. When Connie gets into the room, he finds out that the guy he just took out of the hospital is not his brother. Instead, it's just some random prisoner named Ray. Ray goes hysterical since he is so confused on how he ends up in this place. Connie tries to calm him down and explains that he accidentally broke the wrong guy out of the hospital. Connie can't really say anything but to promise him that he will fix this. He also tells Crystal that the man that he brought in is actually not his brother. Connie then asks her to find her grandmother's car keys. The three of them then get into the car and drive off, just before the cops are searching for a prisoner who just escaped with an ambulance in the neighborhood. Connie's first plan is to go back into the hospital, but then he finds out that there's many cops in the hospital. Connie then drives around and stops at this fast food joint to set up another plan. Connie asks Crystal to get themselves some food so that he can discuss his plan with Ray. Ray then reveals that he's currently on parole after getting out of prison just yesterday. That's when he met his old friend, Caliph, who he hadn't seen in so long. Caliph introduces him to a drug dealer, Trevor, who sells drugs in a bottle. The three of them went into an arcade to sell the drugs, but suddenly, Trevor's friend, Danny, showed up out of nowhere with a bag full of cash. It turns out that he just robbed a Radio Shack store, but soon after, some cops showed up at the arcade. Danny and Ray fled into a nearby amusement park to hide the cash and the drugs. Both of them managed to hide their stuff, but Ray was still high on drugs. At this point, Ray was just doing whatever he could to escape. He even tried to take a cab. After seeing this very suspicious passenger, the cab driver threatened to take him to the cops. Ray decided to jump off the car soon after he heard the word cops. And that's how Ray ended up in a hospital and guarded by a cop. That story got Connie excited, especially the money part, since he still needs some money to bail his brother out. He then suggests that they go to the amusement park to retrieve the money. When Crystal returns, he lied to her that they're gonna drop Ray off at his home. But then Connie drives them into the amusement park. When they arrive at the park, Connie asks Ray to get off the car first, while Connie is casually telling Crystal that they feel some type of deeper connection together. Crystal obviously falls for his charm. Connie then tells her to wait inside the car. Connie and Ray sneak into the amusement park to find the money bag. When they get into the stashing spot, they can only find the drugs. Soon after, they got spotted by the guard. Connie manages to hide from the guard, while Ray gets caught. Knowing that the guard has called the cops about an intruder, Connie tries to sneak around and knocks out the guard. Connie and Ray begin to continue their search, but the money bag is nowhere to be found. When the cops arrive, Connie starts wearing the guard's uniform as a disguise. He even drugs the guard a little, so that the guard won't be able to speak properly for a while. Connie manages to pull off his little show, making the cops arrest the guard instead. The cops ask Connie to light up the whole park to search for another intruder. Seeing that the whole park is lit up, Crystal begins to walk out of the car to get a closer look, but then she gets spotted by the cops. When they walk her into Connie, he tells them that he doesn't know who she is. The cops then bring her in, along with the security guard. When the cops are gone, Connie goes back inside to destroy the CCTV footage. He then gets inside the security guard's patrol car, where Ray has been waiting inside. Ray manages to find the address of the security guard from his ID. Both of them then make their way into the guard's apartment. When they get there, they're trying to find out if the guard lives alone. But it turns out that his dog has been waiting inside. The guard's dog starts barking loudly when they enter the apartment, but the smell from the guard's uniform that Connie is wearing manages to calm the dog down. Now that Connie is cashless, he's trying to get some money out of Ray, as a thank you for breaking him out, since he still needs his brother's bail money. Connie wants him to call whoever wants to pay for the drugs. Ray then begins to call his old pal Caliph. When Caliph arrives, he's trying to take the drug bottle from Connie, but Connie guards himself with the dog that still recognizes him as its owner. Caliph tells him that he can get him $1,000, but Connie says that if they want their drug back, he demands them $15,000 in exchange. Caliph pretends to agree with Connie's deal, but he's signaling Ray that he will come back with a gun instead of money. But it turns out that Connie heard about their little plan, so he tells Ray that the deal is off. He decides to take the drug and hopes that he can make some money out of it himself. When Connie is on his way out, Ray tries to stop him, but he gets attacked by the dog. Connie manages to leave the building, while Ray runs back inside the apartment. Suddenly, he hears police sirens outside the building. When he looks out of the balcony, it turns out that Connie is being chased by some cops. The chase ends quickly and Connie gets arrested by them. Ray also finds out that the cops are coming to him. He knows that the cops are gonna get him if he comes out of the apartment through the door, so he decides to walk out of the window and move along the ledge. Just when Connie is about to be put inside the car, he sees that Ray loses his grip and falls to his death. After that, we get to see the scene of Connie's honest reaction when he is being held inside the police car. Connie can't help but to think about how he just went through all that trouble, only to end up like this, and most importantly, he thinks he failed to save Nick. Meanwhile, Nick is actually in good hands. It turns out that Nick's psychiatrist has managed to release him out of prison, because that's not the place where Nick is supposed to be. Nick gets transferred into a facility where he meets people with special needs like him. The psychiatrist tells Nick that his brother is in the right place where he belongs, just like how Nick is also in the right place, where people with mental disabilities like him are gonna be having a good times. I hope you enjoy the video. Leave a like and comment. And don't forget to subscribe for more cinema recapped.